What's up guys, Freezy here. One question I always get on my Arknight stream was my opinion on unreleased operators for a global server. Who's OP or whose banner to save for, stuff like that. Just from the results in future contingency contracts, every single unreleased 6-star and a lot of the 5-stars are very powerful, and some of them played very important roles in high-risk situations. So in this video, I'll quickly go over my top 5 most impactful unreleased operators as of August 2020. I'll showcase what their abilities are, what other operators are on their banner, and give a quick summary on those 5 operators. Now before we start, let's get one thing straight. No operator is absolutely necessary to get all the rewards in contingency contracts. So if you're satisfied with doing contract level 18 in CC, there is no need to chase all the strong meta operators. This video is for those who want to climb higher in CC, but don't have the budget to get all the meta operators. All the operators in this video will have significant impacts in CC, especially when you turn up the difficulty. With that being said, let's get right into it. At number 5, we have Elysium, the 5-star Vanguard. Elysium is in the same subclass as Myrtle. He does not attack nor block when activating his skills, and he generates a lot of deployment points. Unlike Myrtle, who focuses on healing, Elysium has the ability to buff sniper class operators as well as debuffing enemies. What makes Elysium stand out in high-risk CC is his second skill. Besides generating DP, the skill when activated will place a debuff on up to 4 enemies in range. The debuff reveals invisibility, reduces enemy defense by 35%, and slows for 60%, so it's a very strong debuff. Elysium also increases all sniper class operators' attack speed while his skill is activated, so overall Elysium provides a significant amount of DPS buffs for your team, while being a top tier DP generator. Right now in CC, having a DP generator like Elysium or Myrtle to counter DP related contract is mandatory. So any bonus effect on top of generating DP will add a lot to the team. As of now, Elysium and Myrtle are both heavily used in CC, and sometimes it is even necessary to use both at the same time. Having a powerful slow and debuff on a Vanguard will give you a lot of extra options, because Vanguard is the only class that is rarely banned or restricted in CC maps. Lastly, let's look at the banner information. Elysium comes with the W and Weijie banner. Since W is limited and Weijie is super OP, this banner is by far the best unreleased banner for global. If you want to pull for W and Weijie, there's a pretty good chance you'll get multiple copies of Elysium, which is super good. The potential upgrade on Vanguards matters the most in Arknights, so I recommend saving for the W banner if you are a budget player. The value for pulling this banner is very high. Next up, we have Suzuran, the 6-star supporter. Like Angelina, Suzuran slows enemies with her attacks, but unlike Angelina, Suzuran is more like a traditional supporter who focuses on buffs and debuffs. She is fairly new, released in early July, and she already saw major play on many high-risk maps as a key operator in the most recent CC. So let's see what she does in combat. We first have to look at Suzuran's talent, which I think is arguably the most powerful in the game. Her first talent increases SP regen for supporter class operators by 0.4 per second, which is a bit higher than Pelopsis but only works on supporters. This is actually very OP because nearly all the top tier supporters see play in high risk CC, and Suzuran just makes them a lot better. The second talent is very unique. When an enemy in her attack range gets slowed, the enemy also gets a 20% fragile debuff for the same duration as the slow. The fragile debuff increases damage taken by the enemy, and it works for both physical and arts damage. Now supporters like Suzuran and Angelina slows for 0.8 seconds every attack, so Suzuran applies a 0.8 second fragile debuff every attack. Now if you played any other RPG, you'll probably know that percentage damage increase is usually super OP in the late game, and Suzuran is by far the best damage amplifier in the game, especially with her third skill. Suzuran's ultimate skill when activated will slow all enemies in range. During the skill, her second talent values are doubled, and she heals all allies in range every second. In practice, this is currently the best skill for crowd control, and it amplifies both physical and arts damage by 40%. This skill lasts very long, and has a fairly short cooldown due to her first talent. Using this skill will greatly increase the team's damage output, so you can activate more enemy buff contracts and be okay. And it is very effective at clearing a massive wave of enemies when combined with other big damage ultimates. Given how ridiculous the enemy HP has increased over the past few contingency contracts, having Suzuran is really amazing when you turn up those enemy buff contracts. The only downside to Suzuran is that her banner 5 stars are not so great, so if you really don't have the budget, I recommend finding friends with Suzuran supports. Having access to Suzuran will make many CC maps a lot easier.
仕事? わかった.
Next up, we have another supporter. Shamir is in the same subclass as Pramanix. She is a 5-star supporter who focuses on debuffing enemies and has wide attack range. She even shares the exact same fragile talent as Pramanix, but Shamir has one of the most broken skill in the game. Her second skill, the Voodoo Doll, can be deployed on both range and melee tiles. It is invincible and reduces enemy attack and defense by 50%. What's really crazy about this skill is that when you deploy the doll, the cooldown starts counting right away. The doll lasts 15 seconds, and the SP requirement is only 30, making the downtime of the doll only 15 seconds. If you have Suzuran deployed, the downtime goes down to 6.4 seconds. It is really absurd for such a strong effect. For those who don't know the numbers in Arknights, let's visualize how strong is the 50% attack reduction. Here is the normal Avenger with the buff contracts in the most recent CC, fighting my Heliger with max level skill 2. Now let's fight the same Avenger with the doll this time and see what happens. We can see that the Avenger did far less damage and took a lot more damage with the doll debuff on it. Attack reduction is a very powerful tool in Arknights, and not many operators have it. Reducing enemy attack will reduce both physical and arts damage dealt by the enemies, and the doll is AoE, so whenever you run into any heavy hitters, just toss the doll on top of it and the threat is neutralized. And let's not forget the doll also reduces defense by 50%. The doll is almost like a cheat code for dealing with strong elites and boss monsters. Overall, Shamir is probably the most broken operator in her own niche. She is very one-dimensional as she is only good at debuffing the enemies, but she does it so well to the point where most of the threats in the game can be neutralized by the doll. Shamir comes with the Phantom Banner, and the banner is very good, so I highly recommend pulling the Phantom Banner and try to get Shamir. She is a game changer.
命令に従い、出撃!
The top 1 and 2 spot in this video are roughly the same, so let's start with Bagpipe. Most of you probably guessed her already, as her usage rate is among the highest in high-risk CC. Bagpipe is a 6-star retreat type vanguard. She blocks one enemy and generates 1 DP whenever she kills an enemy. When retreating, Bagpipe refunds her initial deployment costs. Bagpipe has 2 things that are considered broken. The first is her second talent. After Elite 2, Bagpipe increases all Vanguard operators' initial SP by 6. This means all your Vanguards can cast their skills a few seconds earlier after deployment. In practice, this works very well with Myrtle and Elysium. You can drop the DP generators first, quickly pop the skill due to Bagpipe's talent, and drop Bagpipe right away to deal with early rushes. After the rush is done, retreat Bagpipe and use the refunded DP to deploy your high-cost operators. This strategy is very effective on high-risk CC because Bagpipe has a very powerful skill. The first skill gives massive attack and defense boost, as well as making her attacks triple hits. When the skill is activated, Bagpipe has top tier DPS, defender level defense, and she blocks too, effectively making her one of the strongest melee operator, and she only costs 13 DP to deploy. So right now, Bagpipe is necessary to set up early defenses on very high risk CC. After finishing the earlier waves, you can retreat Bagpipe and redeploy her multiple times during the stage to take out high threat targets. This flexibility and buffing other vanguards makes Bagpipe one of the most used operator in contingency contracts. The 5 stars on the Bagpipe banner are average, but Bagpipe herself is like a ticket to high risk CC. So I recommend saving for her if you want to climb higher. She really makes a big difference.
戦術さえ正しければこんなのなんてことない。
Lastly, we have Weijie. This operator is very difficult to explain because her mechanics are kinda complicated, and explaining everything will take a long time, so I'll just quickly go over what makes her stand out. Weijie is a 6-star pusher specialist. She has multiple ways of pushing enemies. What makes her stand out is that unlike other pushers who rely on the environment to kill the enemies, Weijie can actually kill the enemies herself, and she has a lot more pushing power than the other pushers in the game. Weijie's skill 3 is a long-range strong push, and it also applies a debuff on the enemies pushed. The debuff deals 1200 true damage for every tile they traveled. Weijie can also summon a water cannon, and the water cannon when placed beside Weijie will also fire the same skill. The 2 pushes combined can push enemies very far, resulting in massive burst damage. And since it deals true damage, it is unaffected by enemy resistance or attack reduction contracts. In practice, you can use Weijie to push and stall, or just use it as a short cooldown long-range nuke. Because most enemies in the game are lightweight, Weijie is extremely effective at dealing with pretty much everything in the game. This skill with the water cannon also has the strongest push power in the game, and with Angelina reducing enemy weight, Weijie can even bully some heavy bosses too. Weijie's skill 2 takes 70 SP to activate. When activated, it lasts permanently, and Weijie gets increased attack range, a huge attack boost. Her attacks are AoE and every hit pushes. The push power for this skill is only level 1, so it doesn't affect heavier enemies, but it completely dominates lightweight enemies. It can perma-push lightweight enemies while doing good damage. Weijie is, in my opinion, the most fun and versatile operator in high difficulty maps. She is a unique and irreplaceable operator. Having her opens up a ton of strategy options, and she sees a lot of play during CC. The only downside for Weijie is that she is really expensive. Both skill 2 and skill 3 needs max level to function due to the push power upgrade, and maxing 2 skills on a 6-star costs a lot. Weijie comes with the W and Elysium banner, and like I said before, this banner is extremely good. I'll make a full guide on Weijie when she's getting her global release, but for now that's it for this video. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. See you guys next time.